Welcome, chosen ones. If you're here, it's not by accident. You're a chosen one, and life hasn't been easy for you. You've faced betrayal, lies, and attacks that would have broken most people, but you're still standing. That's because God's hand has been on your life, even when it felt like you were fighting alone. Here's the truth. Your enemies underestimated the power of divine justice. They thought they could hurt you without consequences. They ignored every warning God gave them, convinced they could outrun karma. But God's patience has limits, and theirs just ran out. Now sickness has entered their lives. And let's be clear, this isn't just about physical illness. It's the kind of affliction that hits where it hurts most: their peace, their relationships, their finances, even their sanity. They wanted to see you broken, but now they're the ones facing a storm they can't escape. But listen, this isn't about revenge, it's about confirmation. Proof that God saw everything you went through and didn't forget. You are chosen for something bigger, and that's why you've endured so much. Now's the time to rise, to walk in your purpose without looking back. So watch this video. Get the wisdom and encouragement you need. God didn't bring you this far to leave you hanging. The tables have turned, and it's your time to step fully into who you were always meant to be. Let's get started. Chosen ones. Number 1. The sickness mirrors their poisonous intent. The truth is, nothing in life happens by accident, especially when it comes to consequences. Your enemies thought they could throw darkness at you without it bouncing back. They lied on your name, stirred up drama, and secretly celebrated your pain. But here's the thing about life. It's a mirror. What you put out into the world eventually comes back, and for your enemies, that reflection has arrived in the form of sickness. Now don't get it twisted. This isn't just about physical illness. No, it runs much deeper. It's that creeping misery that lives in their mind, heart, and spirit. They wake up with a heaviness they can't shake, relationships falling apart, opportunities drying up, and an anxiety that follows them like a shadow. Why? Because they planted seeds of misery and chaos, and now those seeds have grown into a bitter harvest that's impossible to ignore. But here's where it gets even more real. Sickness doesn't just show up randomly. It targets the exact places where they poured their toxic energy. If they were obsessed with destroying your peace, guess what they've lost now? Their own peace. If they used their influence to spread lies about you, they're now watching their reputation crumble. It's poetic justice in its purest form. God isn't petty, but he is just. When people cross the line with a chosen one, thinking they're above accountability, they forget one thing. Divine justice never forgets. It waits, it watches, and when it moves, it does so with precision. Here's the brutal truth your enemies never wanted to accept. They poisoned themselves while trying to poison you. Their sickness is a reflection of their own intentions. And you're still standing because God never let that poison take root in your soul. Let this be a reminder, chosen ones. Stay on the path of light. Don't let bitterness infect your spirit. What they face now is a warning for others and a testament to your divine protection. Watch carefully and take it as confirmation. You've always been divinely covered, and nothing formed against you will prosper. Number 2. The illusion of invincibility is shattered. Some people walk through life thinking they're invincible. They believe they can do whatever they want, hurt others, spread lies, sabotage people's happiness, and nothing will ever come back to bite them. In their minds, they're untouchable, living above consequences, like karma doesn't apply to them. They think they're smarter than the universe, and they laugh at the idea that God is watching. But life has a funny way of humbling people, doesn't it? Sickness has a way of shattering those illusions of invincibility. And let's be real, it's not always about a physical illness. Sometimes it's a sickness that eats away at their peace of mind, their relationships, or their sense of self. One day they wake up and suddenly their world isn't as perfect as they thought. The power they bragged about, gone. The influence they used to crush others, fading. The confidence they wore like armor, cracked beyond repair. You see, when people think they're untouchable, they stop listening to warnings. God gives everyone signs, little wake-up calls to change their ways, but arrogance blinds them. They ignore the whispers, then the shouts, and by the time sickness shows up, it's too late. That's when reality hits like a freight train. They're not as powerful as they thought. And here's the irony. They used to look down on you, thinking your faith made you weak. But look who's still standing now. While they're unraveling, you've got a strength they'll never understand. God kept you covered while they dug their own grave with arrogance and cruelty. Now they're scrambling for answers, trying to figure out why their world is falling apart. But deep down, they know. The sickness is a brutal reminder that no one is above accountability, not even them. Life has a way of humbling those who think they can outrun karma. So here's the takeaway. Chosen ones, keep walking in humility and faith. Don't waste your time gloating. It's not your job to punish anyone. God's already handling that. Stay focused on your purpose, because while their world crumbles, yours is about to rise to new heights. They believed they were invincible, but you're living proof that divine protection is the real power. Number 3, God's justice doesn't care about appearances. The world is obsessed with appearances. People think money, influence, and charm are shields that protect them from accountability. If they have the right connections, flash a dazzling smile, or throw enough cash at a problem, they assume they can get away with anything. And for a while, it might seem like they're right. They build their lives on lies and manipulation, all while walking around like they own the universe. But here's the thing about God's justice. It doesn't care about their designer suits, their fat bank accounts, or how many followers they have. Divine justice doesn't flinch at social status or get blinded by charisma. It cuts through all the superficial facades and strikes where it hurts the most. Their peace, their reputation, their health, or even their legacy. What makes this even more humbling is that God waits. He gives people countless chances to repent, to change, to make things right. But some people mistake that patience for weakness. They think silence means permission. So they keep doing dirt, thinking no one will ever hold them accountable. But God keeps receipts. And when His justice moves, it's precise, unavoidable, and unforgettable. And here's the truth. When divine justice hits, all their earthly defenses crumble. Their wealth can't buy them peace of mind. Their influence can't fix shattered relationships. Their charm can't stop the gnawing guilt that haunts them. God hits them at their core, in places they thought were untouchable. So don't be fooled when people seem untouchable because of their status. God doesn't care about appearances. He cares about truth. And when you walk in truth, you're already protected. Chosen ones, keep your integrity intact. Don't be swayed by people who look powerful on the surface, but are spiritually bankrupt underneath. God's justice is moving, and when it does, no amount of influence can stop it. Trust that you're covered, and let God handle the rest. Their facades will fall, but your foundation will remain unshaken. Number 4, spiritual sickness manifested physically. Here's a harsh truth. Sickness doesn't just show up out of nowhere. Long before people experience physical breakdowns, their spirits are already rotting. Bitterness, envy, hatred, and deceit eat away at a person from the inside. It's like a slow, invisible poison, one they refuse to acknowledge because, on the surface, everything still looks fine. But you can't hide inner decay forever. It starts to leak out in ways people can't control. Their joy disappears, replaced by constant irritation and restlessness. They lose peace of mind, and no amount of vacations, luxury cars, or social media posts can fill the emptiness inside them. They spend their nights tossing and turning, haunted by guilt or jealousy they refuse to confront. Eventually, the body catches up with the spirit. Stress becomes chronic headaches, digestive issues, or mysterious health problems that doctors struggle to diagnose. Their faces lose that glow they used to have, their energy fades, and even their posture starts to reflect the weight they're carrying. You can literally see the sickness written in their eyes, on their skin, and in their weakened bones. This is what happens when people ignore spiritual decay. They think they can compartmentalize their toxicity, that they can keep their hatred hidden in a corner of their soul without it spilling over. But the spirit and body are connected, and what rots inside will eventually show on the outside. Your enemies thought they could plot against you, lie about you, and walk away without consequences. But God sees what's hidden, and divine justice doesn't just target their circumstances, it affects their very being. Their sickness isn't just physical, it's a manifestation of the spiritual decay they chose to ignore. Here's your takeaway, chosen ones. Keep your spirit clean. Don't let bitterness or anger take root in your heart, no matter how justified it might feel. Stay in alignment with God, because a healthy spirit radiates strength, peace, and resilience. Meanwhile, those who ignored their inner sickness are now living with the consequences. Their suffering is proof that you can't separate the spiritual from the physical. What's inside always finds a way to show up, and God always settles the score. Number 5. They mocked the chosen ones. Now they're begging for mercy. Isn't it wild how quickly tables turn? The very same people who mocked you, spread rumors about you, and laughed at your struggles are now the ones begging for mercy. They thought your faith made you weak. They mocked your values, dismissed your resilience, and underestimated your connection to God. In their eyes, you were an easy target, a chosen one with no backup. But what they didn't realize is that divine patience isn't infinite. God sees everything, and He keeps meticulous records. For a while, it may have looked like they were winning. They had the loudest voices, the biggest platforms, and the confidence that no consequence would ever touch them. But then, just like that, God's patience ran out, and reality hit them harder than they ever expected. Now those same mouths that hurled insults at you are stuttering, asking for compassion. They're scrambling for peace because the chaos they unleashed on you has boomeranged back into their own lives. Funny how life works, right? The very people who reveled in your pain are now pleading for understanding, hoping you'll forget the damage they did. But here's where you show them what being chosen really means. You don't need to gloat or throw their past actions back in their faces. That's not your job. Divine justice already handled that. Your strength lies in maintaining your dignity, your peace, and your purpose. Their begging isn't just desperation. It's an acknowledgement that they were wrong. It's confirmation that God was always on your side, even when it felt like you were outnumbered. Chosen ones, take this as a reminder. You were never alone, and your faith was never in vain. Stay focused, stay humble, and let God continue writing your victory story. The tables have turned, and you're standing exactly where you were meant to be. Number 6, no medicine can cure a spiritual disease. There's a harsh truth many people don't want to face. No doctor, no pill, and no medical breakthrough can cure a disease that started in the soul. Medicine can treat symptoms, high blood pressure, anxiety, ulcers. But when the root cause is spiritual corruption, there's no prescription strong enough to fix it. Your enemies thought they were immune. They believed that money, power, and charm could cover up the darkness they carried inside. But here's what they forgot. You can't mask what's festering in your spirit forever. Bitterness, envy, and deceit poison you from the inside out. And when that poison spreads, it doesn't just stay in their thoughts, it seeps into their bodies. Now they're running from doctor to doctor, desperate for a cure. But the MRI scans can't show the guilt sitting heavy on their hearts. The blood tests won't reveal the anger gnawing away at their peace. And no prescription will erase the spiritual rot that's been growing unchecked for years. The worst part, they brought this sickness on themselves. They caused damage with their words, their actions, and their toxic intentions. And now their bodies are bearing the weight of the chaos they unleashed on others. What they're experiencing is more than just bad health, it's divine accountability. Here's the brutal reality. True healing requires repentance. Until they confront their spiritual sickness, they'll be stuck in a cycle of temporary fixes and worsening conditions. But many of them are too proud to admit they were wrong, so they continue to suffer, blaming everything but the root cause. Chosen ones, take this as a lesson. Keep your heart clean. Don't let bitterness, hatred, or revenge fester inside you, no matter how justified it may feel. Spiritual health is the foundation for physical well-being, and you've been chosen to walk in alignment with divine peace. While they search for cures that don't exist, you're thriving because your spirit is intact. Their sickness stands as a reminder. Spiritual corruption always has a price, and no medicine on earth can pay it. Number 7, their suffering serves as a warning to others. Sometimes life puts people on display, not as an example to follow, but as a cautionary tale. Your enemies thought they were untouchable. They waged war against you, lied on your name, sabotaged your progress, and underestimated your connection to God. But now, they're suffering in ways they never saw coming. And here's the hard truth. Their downfall isn't just about them anymore. It's a warning to everyone watching. People are taking notes. Friends, family, co-workers, and even those who secretly admired their cruelty are seeing what's happening. They're connecting the dots and realizing one thing: waging war against someone divinely protected is a losing battle. Your enemies thought it was just you they were messing with, but they forgot that when God is on your side, every scheme against you becomes a boomerang waiting to return. Now, their lives are falling apart. Their health is crumbling. Relationships are breaking down, and opportunities they once flaunted are slipping through their fingers. It's as if everything they touched turned toxic. And honestly, that's exactly what happened. God has made them a living example, and fear is spreading among those who thought they could get away with similar behavior. People who once cheered them on are now backing away, scared to get caught in the crossfire. Even their closest allies are having second thoughts. No one wants to share their fate, and that's the power of divine justice. When God moves, he doesn't just punish, he teaches everyone involved a lesson. Chosen ones, this is your confirmation. You didn't fight back, and you didn't have to. God handled it for you, and now their suffering is a message loud and clear. Messing with a chosen one comes with consequences. People are seeing that you're divinely covered, and that respect is growing louder than their hatred ever was. Let this be your reminder. Stay on the path of righteousness. Let God continue to elevate you while your enemies become living warnings. Their suffering is proof that justice always comes, whether people believe in it or not. And now, everyone is watching, learning, and realizing that coming against you was the worst decision they ever made. Number 8. God waits, but not forever. God has a reputation for being patient, sometimes so patient that people convince themselves he's not paying attention. They think they can get away with lies, manipulation, betrayal, and cruelty because lightning didn't strike the moment they did wrong. They mistake that divine silence for indifference. But here's the thing. God waits, but not forever. His clocks always strike, even if they're slow to tick. And when they do, it's never random or accidental. The consequences hit with precision and purpose, targeting exactly what people value the most. The same enemies who laughed at your faith and mocked your patience are now realizing this hard truth. For a long time, they felt bold and untouchable. They lived as if consequences were optional. But they didn't realize that God was watching, taking note, and giving them time to repent. That's the beauty of divine patience. It's actually an opportunity for people to change. But arrogance blinds people to those chances. They mistake grace for permission, and by the time God's clock strikes, it's too late to bargain. Now, they're scrambling, trying to fix what's falling apart. Their health is failing, relationships are broken, and the peace they once took for granted has vanished. They're looking for a reset button that no longer exists. The patience they abused has run out, and divine justice has stepped in. Chosen ones, let this be a reminder. God's timing is perfect. Even when it feels like your enemies are getting away with everything, trust that God sees it all. He's not ignoring your tears or turning a blind eye to injustice. He's waiting, not because he's weak, but because he's merciful. And when that mercy runs out, justice speaks loud and clear. Stay faithful, even when the world tells you it's pointless. While your enemies are learning the hard way that God's patience has limits, you'll be elevated in ways they never saw coming. They thought they had time to play games with your life, but divine clocks don't miss a beat, and now they're hearing every second tick louder than they ever imagined. Number 9. The sickness targets what they valued most. When God allows consequences to fall, he doesn't aim randomly. He strikes where it hurts the most. For some, it's their health, a sudden illness that doctors can't explain or treatments that mysteriously stop working. For others, it's their reputation, as lies and scandals unravel, leaving them exposed in the very circles where they once felt untouchable. Then there are those who watch their finances crumble, going from abundance to scrambling for survival. And let's not forget relationships, those once thriving connections now fractured by betrayal, bitterness, or complete indifference. Why does this happen? Because God knows exactly where a person's heart is anchored. He knows what they value more than anything else, and where they place their sense of identity, pride, or security. When divine patience runs out, the very thing they clung to becomes the battleground for their lesson. They can't dismiss it, sugarcoat it, or avoid it. The sickness becomes impossible to ignore because it touches what they treasure most. Think about it. A person obsessed with their image suddenly faces public humiliation. Someone who built their life around wealth finds themselves drowning in debt. A manipulative control freak sees relationships slip through their fingers, leaving them isolated. This isn't coincidence, it's divine precision. God targets these areas not out of cruelty, but to force a confrontation with their arrogance and corruption. The saddest part? Many of them refuse to acknowledge what's happening. They blame circumstances, other people, even bad luck, but never themselves. Instead of taking the sickness as a wake-up call to change, they fight against it, trying to fix symptoms without addressing the root cause. Chosen ones, here's your reminder. God knows your enemies better than you do. He knows what they value most and how to humble them in ways that are impossible to ignore. While they tried to attack your peace, God has made their consequences personal. They're dealing with battles they can't escape because the sickness has invaded what they held dearest. But as for you, stay in alignment with divine truth. Don't be shaken by their past victories or their illusions of power. God doesn't forget, and He doesn't miss His target. What was done to you is being corrected at the source, and believe me, they feel it right where it hurts most. Number 10. The sickness targets what they valued most. When divine justice steps in, it doesn't strike lightly, and it doesn't strike where it won't be noticed. The sickness that comes for your enemies is strategic. It targets what they valued most, forcing them to face the very things they idolized or took pride in. For some, it's their health. They may have lived recklessly, treating their bodies as invincible, or even weaponized their energy to harm others. Now they're finding themselves weakened, struggling with illnesses they can't shake, and losing the vitality they once took for granted. For others, it's their reputation. They might have built their identity on public image, constantly seeking validation, while secretly tearing others down to stay on top. Now, that same reputation is in shambles. As lies unravel, secrets are exposed, and the very people they tried to impress turn their backs on them. The shame is unbearable because they lived for the applause, and now all they hear is silence. Then there's the financial fallout. For those who valued money above all else, divine justice hits their bank accounts, investments, or business ventures. What once seemed secure is now crumbling, and they're left scrambling, unable to maintain the facade of wealth. And perhaps most painful of all, relationships take the blow. For those who weaponized their charm or used others as pawns in their schemes, the sickness creeps into their personal lives. Friends leave, partners grow distant, and trust disintegrates. They're left alone with their actions, unable to escape the consequences of their toxic behavior. This isn't random, it's calculated. God knows exactly where their heart lies and what they've built their lives around. When they ignored warnings and continued to harm you, they set themselves up for this reckoning. The sickness forces them to confront their false idols, whether it's their health, their status, their wealth, or their relationships. And here's the truth, they can't ignore it. It's too personal, too painful, and too precise to brush off as coincidence. What they once valued most has become the source of their greatest suffering, and no amount of denial can make it go away. Chosen ones, take this as confirmation. God fights battles in ways we can't. He doesn't just restore what was taken from you. He ensures that those who wronged you feel the weight of their actions where it matters most to them. Their sickness isn't just punishment, it's a reminder that no one is beyond the reach of divine justice. Number 11, apologies came too late. Isn't it funny how people only find their conscience when things start falling apart? Suddenly, the same enemies who mocked you lied on you, and went out of their way to cause chaos are singing a new tune. They're sorry now, so sorry. But here's the cold truth. Apologies that come after the damage is done often mean nothing. When divine patience has run out, empty words don't hold any weight. For years they had chances to stop, reflect, and make things right. God is merciful like that. He gives people endless opportunities to turn from their toxic ways. But they ignored every warning. Why? Because in their arrogance they thought consequences were just fairy tales, told to scare people into behaving. They believed they could hurt you without ever paying the price. But divine justice doesn't play by human timelines. When God moves, it's swift and decisive. And by the time they realize they've crossed the line, the door to mercy is already closed. Now they're scrambling, trying to patch things up with hollow apologies and frantic gestures of regret. But here's the kicker. Those apologies don't erase the damage they caused or the scars they left on your journey. Think about it. If someone intentionally burns down your house, showing up with a bouquet of flowers after the ashes have settled doesn't make things right. That's exactly what your enemies are doing now, trying to sweep their mess under the rug after God has already issued their sentence. And here's where it gets real. Many of these apologies aren't even genuine. They're desperate attempts to escape the consequences. They're hoping that by saying sorry, God will hit the reset button on their suffering. But divine justice doesn't work like that. True repentance requires humility, accountability, and genuine change. And most of them aren't willing to go that far. Chosen ones, don't be fooled by their sudden remorse. You've seen their true colors, and God has already handled the situation on your behalf. Their apologies may sound sweet, but they're too late. What they planted has already come to harvest, and no amount of lip service will undo it. Trust that God's timing is perfect, and that you've been vindicated in ways far beyond their shallow words. Number 12. They thought they were smarter than God. Let's be real. Some people really think they're smarter than God. They act like life is a chess game where they're the master players, plotting every move with confidence. They lie, manipulate, backstab, and convince themselves that they're untouchable. They think if they're clever enough, they can dodge consequences forever. To them, divine justice is just a myth that only fools worry about. But here's the harsh truth. God doesn't play chess. He created the entire board. And while they were busy flexing their so-called intelligence, he was already 10 moves ahead, watching in silence. They thought they were outsmarting him, but all they were really doing was digging their own grave. Every sneaky move they made was just another step toward checkmate. And checkmate came hard. Now they're standing in the ruins of their own arrogance, confused about how it all went wrong. Their health is failing, relationships are crumbling, and finances are in chaos. The people they once controlled have walked away, and their reputation is in tatters. The very game they thought they were winning has turned into a nightmare they can't escape. You see, God's justice doesn't need a flashy entrance. It's subtle, precise, and undeniable. By the time they realize what's happening, it's already too late. They're staring at the board, but there's no move left to play. And the wild part? All those times they mocked your faith, laughed at your patience, and thought you were naive for trusting in God, they were actually setting themselves up for this moment. Chosen ones, let this sink in. God doesn't need to prove himself to anyone. He lets people think they're winning because that's part of the lesson. Arrogance blinds them, but divine justice humbles them beyond recognition. Your enemies played chess with God and got outsmarted in every possible way. So don't be bothered by their past victories or their smug attitudes. They weren't winning, they were being allowed to self-destruct. And now that the game is over, they're left standing in checkmate with nowhere to turn but up. God always has the final move, and it's a game they'll never forget. Number 13. Their nightmares have become reality. Let's talk about karma. Divine justice, if you will. Your enemies scoffed at the idea that their actions would ever catch up with them. Consequences? Please. That was just a bedtime story for the weak, or so they thought. They walked through life with a smirk, creating chaos, hurting others without a second thought, and believing they were untouchable. But here's the thing about the seeds of destruction. They always bloom. And now those seeds are fully grown, right in the middle of their lives. The nightmares they used to dismiss have become their daily reality. They're haunted, not just at night, but in broad daylight. The chaos they once unleashed has boomeranged back with relentless precision. Sleep used to be their escape. Now it's their battleground. They wake up drenched in sweat, heart pounding, haunted by memories they can't outrun. Every face they wronged, every lie they told, every betrayal they orchestrated flashes in their minds like a horror movie on repeat. Even when they manage to fall asleep, there's no peace waiting for them on the other side. And it doesn't stop when the sun comes up. They go through their day paranoid, waiting for the next blow, the next unraveling of their carefully crafted lives. They see shadows where there aren't any, hear whispers that aren't real, and feel the walls closing in. It's not paranoia, it's justice taking its course. See, God doesn't just hand out physical consequences. Sometimes He wages war on the mind. When peace is stripped away, even the most powerful people are reduced to trembling shells of who they used to be. They laughed at the idea of consequences, but now their reality is no joke. Chosen ones, understand this. God has vindicated you in ways they never saw coming. They thought they were untouchable, but now they're prisoners in their own minds. The tables have turned, and you don't have to lift a finger to see justice unfold. Their nightmares are their new normal, and every sleepless night is a reminder that divine patience is not to be taken for granted. In conclusion, chosen ones, here's the bottom line. You were never forgotten, never forsaken, and never unprotected. Your enemies may have thought they were getting away with their schemes, but divine justice doesn't operate on human timelines. God was keeping score the entire time, and now the consequences are unfolding right in front of you. The sickness, the chaos, the shattered lives, it's all proof that God's patience isn't limitless. But this isn't just about their downfall, it's about your rise. You endured the storm, kept your dignity, and held on to your faith when it felt like all odds were against you. That strength? It didn't go unnoticed. God saw your resilience, and now the tables have turned in your favor. Let this be your reminder. You don't need to seek revenge or justify yourself to anyone. Your vindication is already written in the story unfolding around you. Stay humble, stay focused, and most importantly, stay aligned with God's purpose for your life. Don't get distracted by their chaos. It's not your burden to carry. This is your season to walk in confidence and claim the peace and blessings you fought for. If you're here right now, it's not by accident. God led you here to remind you of your power and divine protection. You've already won the battle. Now walk in that victory. Watch the full video because this isn't just information, it's transformation. There's a message here you need to hear, a message that will strengthen your spirit, sharpen your mind, and help you step fully into your purpose as a chosen one. Trust me, you'll want to hear this. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.